Everything changed in a matter of seconds. I mean, think about it. One moment, you are the absolute, undisputed future of a franchise. You're the untouchable savior sent to deliver a desperate city right to the promised land. And the very next moment, you're on the clock. Welcome to this explainer. Look, we need to dive deep into this right out of the gate because what is happening in Houston right now is nothing short of cinematic. We are looking at a team that is perfectly, meticulously constructed to win a Super Bowl immediately. Yet, just beneath that shiny surface, there's a ticking clock. There's this quiet, lingering doubt and a series of hyper-calculated decisions that could literally alter the landscape of the entire NFL. This isn't just about football anymore, guys. This is about high-stakes leverage, it's about legacy, and it's about the brutal, unforgiving reality of a championship window that closes just as fast as it opens.
But before we start unraveling this mystery together, you need to be part of the inner circle. Welcome to NFL Nexus, your premier destination for deep cinematic football analysis. I need you to subscribe to the channel right now, hit that like button on this explainer, and drop a comment below with your exact thoughts as we break down these clues. Let's get a real discussion going. And listen, if you want to truly support what we do here and get that exclusive, behind-the-scenes access, become a channel member. Join the Nexus. We don't just briefly gloss over the news here. We obsess over it. We dissect every single tiny detail. All right, let's get back to Houston. Section 1. A franchise on edge.
To really understand why this franchise is currently walking a razor-thin tightrope, you have to look at the construction of this roster. On paper, this is a team practically custom-built to hoist the Lombardi Trophy. They have the elite talent, they have brilliant coaching, and they are carrying absolutely massive expectations. But when you look closer, when you strip away all those polished, perfectly crafted PR statements from training camp, you find a team fractured by lingering questions and a totally deafening silence from the front office. Literally every single move they've made points to a front office that is holding its breath. Case in point, Will Anderson Jr. got paid. He just secured a mammoth, landscape-altering extension from Houston this very offseason. Now keep in mind, the Texans drafted Will Anderson Jr. in the exact same year as their quarterback. They were the crown jewels of the same draft class. They walked into the building on the exact same day. The Texans are historically one of the most aggressive teams in the entire league when it comes to locking up their elite veteran talent early. So, why is the absolute most important piece of the entire franchise, the guy who touches the ball on every single offensive snap, still waiting in the dark?
Section 2. The unsigned quarterback.
And that brings us to the core anomaly of this entire offseason strategy, C.J. Stroud. The guy who won Offensive Rookie of the Year, the man who was supposed to be the undisputed QB1 for the next decade. Yet as we sit here at the start of the 2026 season, C.J. Stroud has received exactly $0 in new multi-year extension money, despite becoming fully eligible. Zero. In a league where true franchise quarterbacks are typically locked up the absolute second they become eligible to sign, the Texans have deliberately, purposefully chosen to wait. Just let that sink in. $0 is a chilling reality for a player who frankly believed he had already proven himself to the city. In the modern NFL, silence is a language all of its own. And a $0 commitment? Well, that is a megaphone broadcasting to the entire league. The front office is sending an unmistakable, crystal-clear message that past accolades and rookie-year heroics, they're just no longer enough to secure the keys to the franchise.
Instead of a massive, market-resetting extension that guarantees him hundreds of millions of dollars, the Texans opted for cold, calculated math, $31.6 million. That is the exact, specific figure the Texans owe Stroud over the next 2 years after quietly picking up his 2027 fifth-year option. Now let's break down the mechanics of why this is so unbelievably significant. From a pure financial perspective, it's a brilliantly cautious move. It costs them virtually nothing in the grand scheme of an exploding quarterback market, right? I mean, we're seeing average annual values soaring way past $60 million a year for top guys. But from a relationship standpoint, it is a highly calculated, honestly slightly dangerous hedge. By utilizing that fifth-year option without an extension, they are keeping their starting quarterback on a rookie-scale leash. They are quite literally putting him on trial, daring him to prove he can take them all the way before they even think about opening up the vault.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what the insiders are seeing behind closed doors. Listen to ESPN's Dan Graziano, who noted, "The hesitancy by this team in particular to extend Stroud when he first became eligible for an extension speaks volumes." That phrase right there, "speaks volumes," is absolutely critical. This isn't just your generic run-of-the-mill media speculation or slow off-season chatter. This is expert testimony validating the growing whispers of doubt echoing through the halls of the Houston front office.
Nick Caserio is a general manager who is known for decisively rewarding his core players. When a notoriously aggressive front office suddenly becomes intensely hesitant, with the single most protected position in all of sports, you have to go to the tape to find out exactly what is causing that hesitation. So, let's look at the tape. Here is the exact reason why the pen hasn't hit the paper: C.J. Stroud's playoff regression. Look really closely at these granular, undeniable numbers from his last 2 postseason appearances. 5 interceptions, 2 lost fumbles, a dead-even career postseason record of 3-3. We are talking about 7 total turnovers when the lights were the absolute brightest, when the weather was the coldest, and the stakes were higher than they've ever been. These aren't just minor statistics to brush off. These are deeply rooted seeds of doubt. The front office had to sit there and watch their quarterback turn the ball over 5 times in win-or-go-home elimination scenarios, against elite defensive coordinators who quite frankly figured out his tendencies. Fair or not, that perception of January regression, of forcing throws into insanely tight coverage when the pocket inevitably collapses, that is exactly the thing that is paralyzing these massive contract negotiations.
Section 3. The Essential Weapons. So how exactly does a front office handle a quarterback they aren't quite ready to pay? It's simple. They surround him with an arsenal designed to do one of 2 things: either entirely save him or completely expose him. If Stroud fails in 2026, the front office is absolutely ensured that he will have no one to blame but himself. When you look at the 2026 receiving core, outside of losing Christian Kirk to San Francisco and drafting Louis Bodine in the 6th round, the front office essentially stood completely pat. They trust this exact group of guys to flawlessly execute Bobby Slowick's complex passing scheme. You've got Tank Dell finally returning to full form from that devastating 2024 leg injury, bringing that terrifying, explosive, game-breaking speed back to the slot. You have the incredibly reliable veteran Dalton Schultz anchoring the tight end spot, perfectly finding those soft spots in zone coverage. And you've got the budding emergence of second-year wideout Jalen Knoll really pushing for snaps. But the true danger, the actual nightmare scenario for opposing coordinators, that lies strictly on the periphery.
What's truly fascinating here is the absolute matchup nightmare the Texans have intentionally created on the outside. On one side, you have Nico Collins. He is your quintessential power forward. He's 6'4", incredibly physically imposing, a receiver who just uses pure brute force to outmuscle defensive backs for those 50-50 balls and absolutely dominate in the red zone. But then, on the other side, you have second-year star Jaden Higgins. He's the small forward, also standing at exactly 6'4", but he possesses a much smoother, looser, totally fluid athletic profile. He literally just glides through his routes. Picture being a defensive coordinator trying to scheme against 2 6'4" giants who boast entirely different yet completely complementary physical styles. If you play press man coverage with big physical corners to try and stop Collins, Higgins is just going to completely burn them with his fluidity. But if you play off coverage with quicker corners to stick with Higgins, Collins will just physically bully them at the catch point. It is pretty much an impossible ask for any secondary in the league.
And the insider hype is rapidly catching up to the physical reality we're seeing on the practice field. Just listen to Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer validate this exact offensive strategy. He said, Higgins certainly has looked that part in the spring. Having those 2 guys at around 6'4" on the outside certainly stands to present defenses with a host of problems. Remember the context here, guys. Higgins was essentially a first-round pick. He was taken 34th overall after a highly strategic, calculated trade up by Nick Caserio. The Texans didn't just draft him because he happened to be the best player available on some board. They specifically targeted his exact athletic profile to be the stylistic counterpunch to Nico Collins. He is the critical WR2 this offense desperately needs to keep those double teams far away from Collins and give Stroud a massive, forgiving catch radius on every single dropback.
And the statistical evolution of Higgins completely justifies the team's massive reliance on him heading into this high-stakes season. It's a classic tale of 2 halves, perfectly illustrating a young player finally breaking through that notorious rookie wall. In the early season, let's be honest, he was virtually a ghost. He was struggling to digest the massive NFL playbook, commanding just 2.8 targets and less than 20 yards per game and playing a very low percentage of the offensive snaps. But look at the back half of the year. From weeks 9 through 18, the game just visibly slowed down for him and everything clicked right into place. He jumped to over 5 targets a game, over 40 yards a game, secured 4 total touchdowns, and stayed on the field for over 61% of the offensive snaps. He fully transformed from this wide-eyed rookie learning the ropes into C.J. Stroud's essential, highly trusted safety blanket down the final stretch.
Section 4. The final defensive piece. Now, an elite offense is really only half the equation when you are hunting for a championship in this league. The Texans have a phenomenally talented defense under head coach DeMeco Ryans, but they have one glaring, incredibly dangerous hole right now:
the edge rusher void. The team suffered massive veteran departures this offseason, losing both D'Amico Autry and Derek Barnett. And in D'Amico Ryan's incredibly aggressive defensive scheme, you absolutely must have a three-man rotation on the edge just to keep your pass rushers fresh for the fourth quarter. Losing those two veterans leaves a perilous, frankly terrifying gap right behind their superstars Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter. Just look at their internal replacements: Dylan Horton, Ollie Guy, Logan Hall sliding over from the defensive interior. Ryans has publicly stated he expects heavy competition for that edge 3 spot, but anybody who follows the NFL knows that competition in August is often polite coach speak for "we honestly don't have a proven answer yet." And you simply cannot chase Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen in the playoffs without a proven answer to close out close games.
So who do you call when the stakes are this astronomically high? The cap space is just sitting right there, and you absolutely need a seasoned hired gun to complete a championship defensive front. You look to the past. You look for a player who inherently understands the pressure of the city, the missing piece to D'Amico Ryan's Super Bowl puzzle. Well, it might just be the very first player this franchise selected with the #1 overall pick way back in 2014.
Enter Jadeveon Clowney. This granular data details exactly why a 13-year veteran is the ultimate low-risk, high-reward chess move for Houston right now. Look at his 2025 resurgence with the Dallas Cowboys. In just 13 games played and only 6 starts as a pure rotational piece, Clowney was still an absolute force of nature. He generated 8.5 sacks, he racked up 41 total tackles, and a massive 12 tackles for loss. His win rate off the edge remains incredibly high, specifically because he isn't playing 60 exhaustive snaps a game anymore. The Texans don't need him to be the every-down superstar he was drafted to be a decade ago. They just need him to be that violent, run-stopping, pressure-generating edge 3 that completely solidifies this defensive front on key third downs. Bringing him back home, that is the exact kind of cinematic, all-in move a desperate team makes.
Section 5. Super Bowl or Bust. When you pull the camera back from all these roster micro-decisions, you finally see the terrifying, massive scale of the 2026 season. And the Texans have the sheer financial ammunition to do absolutely whatever it takes to secure a ring. Just linger on this number for a second. $30 million. That is the Texans' massive post-June 1st salary cap space. They aren't paralyzed by a bad cap situation like half the league. They are armed to the teeth. $30 million is a literal war chest. It's the difference between signing a difference-making veteran like Clowney right now or just rolling that money over to next year. The fact that they have this money just sitting there, completely untouched as training camp looms, raises the stakes even higher. It proves that GM Nick Caserio is holding his cards incredibly close to his chest, waiting for the exact right moment to strike. Or more ominously, he's holding on to that massive pile of cash in case he needs to pivot away from his current quarterback entirely. Because this timeline, this is the suffocating reality hanging directly over C.J. Stroud's head. The ticking clock is absolutely deafening inside that facility right now. 2026 is officially a make-or-break season. Because if Stroud falters, if those January playoff turnovers happen again, look at the brutal reality of what is currently waiting in the wings. Early 2027 brings the heavily rumored availability of Philadelphia Eagles starter Jalen Hurts, a proven Super Bowl caliber quarterback whose own unique contract structure makes him a very real potential trade candidate. And right behind that, April 2027 features a loaded, top-tier quarterback draft class bursting with elite collegiate talent. The Texans front office has positioned themselves masterfully here. If Stroud doesn't prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is the one true franchise savior, they have actively built multiple immediate escape routes to replace him without skipping a beat.
So let's just strip away all the public relations spin and the generic happy votes of confidence from the podium. Dan Graziano paints the unvarnished, totally undeniable truth of this whole situation. It's clear the Texans want to see more before committing, and that puts Stroud under as much pressure this year as just about any quarterback in the NFL. The roster is perfect, the explosive weapons are secured, the cap space is readily available in the bank, the excuses have been completely surgically removed by the front office. Every single dropback, every single read, and every single decision in the fourth quarter this year is going to be heavily, ruthlessly scrutinized. It is all squarely on his shoulders.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question hanging over the entire city of Houston right now. Will the clock run out? Can C.J. Stroud finally silence the intense doubts, conquer his January playoff demons, and force the Texans front office to hand him a blank check? Or will the immense, crushing weight of a Super Bowl-ready roster, the loud whispers of Jalen Hurts' availability, and the steady ticking of the 2027 draft class finally break him? The pieces are set on the board, the cinematic tension is incredibly real, and the clock is officially ticking. Keep it locked right here on NFL Nexus as we watch this incredible drama unfold.